Good afternoon. As I have periodically done before, I wanted to take some time and update you on some facts as I have them and recent events. As we spoke last week at about this time, the governor extended the stay-at-home order through the end of April. He didn't make that decision to make anyone's life harder or to add more stress to your life or fear, but he did it out of an abundance of caution for all of us. I have heard several times this week something along the lines of, we don't have that many cases here, but they still treat us like Chicago. This is a particularly dangerous mindset. We all fall under the stay-at-home order because this virus is not geographical. It's everywhere. Just because we don't have the population density of Chicago, which we do not, of course, doesn't mean that we don't have risks or that those risks aren't here. As I've done before, I'm imploring you to stay home. Locally, our medical professionals still believe that we are 1 to 2 weeks away from our peak number of cases locally, and that peak will only be extended the more that you want to run to the store or places that maybe you don't have to go. Limit all of your contact as much as you can to the public. Don't go to the store unless it's absolutely essential to your life or your family's life. And in that same vein, I've been asked several times in the last week or so about Easter drive-up services. And I get that request. I miss church. I personally don't know that I've ever missed an Easter service somewhere since I was a kid. I'm going to be missing this year's. By taking the approach that government cannot tell us what to do, it's particularly a dangerous route to take. We aren't asking that you don't attend church. We're asking you to do so from your living room. I'm hopeful and prayerful that our situation is as temporary as possible. But the truth is, it's very simple. The more that we congregate, the more opportunities we have in the presence of others, the longer this situation will remain as it is now. And I know, just like you, I want this situation to end as soon as possible. There are a few items in the news that you are going to be hearing. I want you to hear it from me. The City Council made a very difficult decision this week to furlough some of our city employees. As almost every business is experiencing with no revenue coming in, it is extremely difficult and I believe irresponsible for us as stewards of your tax dollars to pay employees who are not allowed to work in their facility because it puts their health and the public's health at risk. There are some very disturbing naming conventions that we've all been taught from the beginning during this pandemic, namely those employees that are deemed essential and those that are non-essential. To every city employee that's been affected by this crisis, I want you to know that you're essential to the City Council and you're essential to me. And your facilities are essential to us and to our patrons and our taxpayers. It is in what I can only hope and pray are once-in-a-lifetime events that have forced us by government decree to close these facilities. I will tell you now, we have big plans and big events in the future planned at those facilities, and we will need you back and those services to our patrons and our taxpayers once we are allowed to reopen them. And we are hopeful to bring all of those employees back as soon as possible, as am I in my private companies. But to do so, we need everybody's help. Please stay home, because it's not just that our employees can return to work, but for the employees of the stores that you typically frequent who are also under a similar situation. If you don't need to go, then don't go. Stay home for your healthcare workers who are committed to working these incredibly long hours so that they can return home. We don't know the long-term effects of this virus and what those effects will have on the city's financials or business financials. But I, along with the City Council, promise to be transparent about our rationale, and we will continue to be a good steward of your tax dollars as we see it. Another item in the news today is an announcement that Quorum Health, which is the healthcare parent company that owns and operates Heartland Regional Medical Center has filed for bankruptcy. If you read deeper than just the headline, you should conclude, as I have, that this is a good thing for our local hospital. The group itself owns 23 hospitals, and this move into bankruptcy was made in order to convert roughly half of the debt that they owed to a company into equity. Now, all that means is that the company they owed the money to decided to forgive half of the debt that they owed in exchange for ownership in that hospital group. That is actually a vote of confidence by them. And maybe more importantly, it frees up a lot of cash that would have been needed to pay interest on that debt and allow them to reinvest into the hospitals. As a matter of fact, Heartland is already in the process of building an additional facility on their campus here in Marion. So in this case, bankruptcy is not the end, but it's actually a new start that will lead to a more sustainable hospital for our community, and we appreciate them. Last Friday night, Josh Benetone and Jared Gravatt, who are the owners of the Crown Brew Coffee Company that they're currently bringing to Marion, organized what can be said is nothing less than a remarkable event at the Marion Cultural and Civic Center. The event raised $190,000 and counting, and it's not too late to donate. I'll show you how to do that here in the end, for our local small business community. I have been asked how applicants will be chosen and how much money they will get. The Southern Illinois Community Foundation is the nonprofit that is holding these donated funds, and they will be convening a committee to review the application and make the grants once all the applications are in. If you know of a local small business within the city limits of Marion that's affected by this pandemic, refer them to marion-united.com to apply. It's a really simple application process. I think it's 2 pages in total, and they are due by this Friday, April 10th. Again, I want to thank the Crown Brew guys for Josh and Jared for their vision. I want to thank Josh Benson and his team at the Marion Cultural and Civic Center for pulling off a remarkable once-in-a-lifetime event, I hope, and the performers for lending us their talents. And most of all, to all of you that donated to this most worthy cause. When we look back on this time in our lives, it is this event and what I hope will be more like it in the future that I will personally look back on with such pride as to what a united community can do for their neighbors. And kind of in that vein, some of you will know that the last few times I've spoken, I've tried to end with some sort of a relevant motivational story. The last time was about James Stockdale. I don't have one of those today, partly because I had some information I wanted to get out and I didn't find one that kind of connected to all this. But as I was thinking through what I could say, especially as I had goosebumps about this Marion United event, it occurs to me that how we act, what we do, what we say, and what we do for each other right now, that's the story. We get to create the story. My goal for us and for all of Marion is that this Marion United event isn't the last thing we do for each other. It's just the very first example of what we can do for each other. But don't depend on Josh and Jared or me or anybody else necessarily to come up with these ideas and these events. There's thousands of you and just a few of us. What's next? My goal as I was thinking through this, I grew up listening to Paul Harvey, and now Mike Rowe of the Dirty Jobs guy is kind of the modern incarnation of that. Wouldn't it be great if Mike Rowe told Marion's story a year from now, a year and a half from now, a month from now? My friends, we get to create our own story in this circumstance. I ask all of you to be patient. I ask you to be kind. I ask you to ask your neighbors what you can do, and it's simple. Just ask them if you can pick something up from the grocery store for them if you're having to go. It can be just that simple. This is an opportunity for us to continue to unite. I want you to all be well. I want you to be cautious, but I want you to be hopeful. And as brutal as these times and some of the decisions that are having to be made are for everyone, including those that they affect, for the most part, our town's navigating this crisis pretty well together. And from a very grateful mayor, I thank you. God bless to each of you, the city of Marion, and our great nation. Thank you.